You've probably already forgotten what you once called the day you'll always remember. And when I say you forgot about it, it's not that you can't remember it, it's just that you don't. But when every once in a while you hear a song or smell a smell or see a picture that triggers that memory, your brain releases a ton of dopamine. I call it the brain juice. But this whole thing is called nostalgia, and I'm going to talk about why this strange feeling is surprisingly so important for your well-being. I'm a bit of a nostalgia junkie sometimes. I like to keep a lot of old videos and photos and like journals, and I've sort of built this nostalgia inventory. I'll talk more about it later, but I go back to those old videos and photos quite frequently, and so I was wondering whether it's even a good thing, this whole nostalgia thing, or am I just holding on to the past for too long, or am I just, just like living in the past or something? One of the things that nostalgia helps the most with is your self-image. Because when you see your past, you see your growth. You cringe at your past self because you see how much you've changed now. And that's also true if you look back at your struggling times, because you see how much you grew through all of that. And that kind of boosts your perception of yourself. But here's the interesting thing about this. Usually your perception of yourself, your identity, is made up of the things that happened within the last 2 to 3 weeks. I really like Johnny Harris's theory about this, which is basically that this is you, and that's sort of the time bubble that you use to identify yourself with. If you've been doing good in studies lately, you think of yourself as a good student. Or maybe you've been recently passionate about photography. Or maybe you've been struggling to be social. All of that becomes a huge part of your identity, even though it's all so recent. But when you start to see outside of this time bubble, you start to form your identity on a wider scale. You start to think of yourself maybe as a generally creative person instead of just being into photography, because you remember you really loved painting when you were a kid, or you were really into music a few years ago. Or maybe you see a picture of you with your friends and realize you are actually pretty social. It's just been the past few weeks that you've been out of touch with your friends. And you also get reminded of the people that have been a part of your life, that have believed in you and have cared for you. And even if you haven't felt that in a while, you get reminded that it does exist. So I make these 3-year vlogs, which are basically videos, like really raw and casual videos that are at least more than 10 minutes. And I record them on occasions that I might want to remember in the future, but also on regular days, and just documenting how it feels like to be alive at that day and like what's going on in the world at that moment. In about 20 seconds, I'm gonna turn 20 years old. And the important thing about these videos is they always have to be longer than they kind of should be. Because when you watch your childhood videos, it's always like, I wish I could see a little more of that. I wish I could see my childhood bedroom, or how that corner of the house looked.
Today I'm going to show you some really great magic tricks.
And that's where these videos are kind of nice, because you record them in long chunks. It's sort of with the intention of being watched years in the future, and you record everything that you think can be potentially nostalgic. And after recording these, what I do is email those videos to myself 3 years in the future. It's actually been around 4 years since I've been doing these vlogs, and I love watching them now. But the question's still there. Yes, it feels really nice, but is it actually good for me to keep going back and like trying to relive my past or something? I think there's definitely a line there. When your relationship with nostalgia turns from a nice occasional thing to a regular need for you to feel good, you're probably not in a good spot, and I think you should really look into that, because you shouldn't be regularly relying on nostalgia. I feel like it's also kind of interesting knowing that this time of my life right now, it's gonna be one of the most nostalgic chunks of my life. Because according to this lifespan retrieval curve, this time of teens and 20s is the time where we get most of our nostalgia out of, because this is around the time where we sort of develop our sense of identity the most. But I think just knowing that this right now is what I'm gonna be the most nostalgic about in the future, it kind of makes me want to experience and capture what it really feels like to live right now, to take videos and photos and sort of just have it with me, because I'm only gonna experience this once. But yeah, this video was, I just wanted to talk about nostalgia, so this was it.